I discovered my fiancée's 9-month affair with her boss, a sacrifice of her body for career advancement. Welcome to the Love and Betrayed Love channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. My girlfriend slept with the groom just before her friend's wedding. I wrecked her online business and drove her out of state. I was 28 years old when I met my girlfriend, a 26-year-old woman, at a bar where they were doing a quiz, and I wound up on the same team as her. I didn't come with my own team. I was impressed by how much she knew, which drew me to her. I've always been a trivia fan, so anyone that shares my passion is quite interesting to me. We started communicating and ultimately we began dating. I'm now pursuing a master's degree, whereas she was a teacher before quitting to focus on developing her internet profile. She's striving to be a trivia-focused influencer, which I fully support, because I believe we need a lot more of those kind of characters, particularly women, on the internet. Anyway, while she was in high school, she had a wonderful buddy, whom we'll call May, had a high school sweetheart, whom I'll name James, and their relationship, at least to outsiders, seemed idyllic. Two persons who fell in love in high school managed to stay together throughout college on opposite ends of the country and finally began to live close together after everything. My girlfriend came to me a few months ago to tell me about James's proposal to Emily and their plans to marry shortly. I've met James and May several times and they are the loveliest folks. I've always wished them well, so when she informed me, I was quite thrilled for the two of them. I believe that everyone has a unique love story, but I've always liked the idea of finding love early in life. There's nothing quite like getting to know someone so well, especially when things last all the way to the conclusion, because I'll eventually get into this narrative. Being high school sweethearts does not guarantee that you will have a fantastic relationship if such an item exists. So a date was set for James and Emily's wedding and, as expected, we attended. To be honest, it was an incredible and lovely event. It was a little rocker since, as I discovered that day, a large number of Emily's relatives were members of a certain motorcycle club. It appears that her extended family was proud of it, but she was not one of those who followed in their footsteps. They were all good individuals. However, some were terrifying, but they were simple to get along with. I did not have the same emotional investment as my girlfriend, considering I'd only known them for a fraction of the time she had, but I'll admit that it still impacted me, because the two of them appeared to be completely in love. Things began to go wrong when I found myself making small talk with one of the other guests who went to the same high school as the pair and my girlfriend. I tried to point out my girlfriend to him, and when I spotted her, I noticed that she and the groom were standing along a wall, both with serious expressions. The bride was someplace else talking with some of her friends. Here is the thing. I don't think I would have minded watching James and my girlfriend having a private talk. That wasn't the problem I had. It's just that the talk on James and Emily's wedding day appeared to be far too serious. At least from where I stood, I made a mental note to talk to my girlfriend about it. When the night's excitement subsided and we returned to our hotel room, I brought it up and asked her what they were discussing. That situation was very somber on a date that was supposed to be quite joyous for everyone present. She immediately said, "Oh, it was nothing," but that answer only added to my doubts. I informed her that it couldn't be nothing. I believe she recognized she needed to say something, because she wanted to make it apparent that it wasn't a huge problem. She claimed that he was simply having a usual day. Is it a mistake to be anxious about weddings? She basically helped him calm down, given how long they'd known one another. It was a reasonably plausible response, even though I had a lot of questions, such as why I wasn't one of the groomsmen providing the pep talk and why it appeared to be more of a back and forth than a motivational speech. I just left it. However, when I observed she was continually in discussion with someone on her phone's messaging app, I became curious about what was happening. Every time she took up her phone, her expression became more serious, and that's when I believe I totally accepted my suspicion. Cheating was not on my mind. However, I just felt like there was something she didn't want to tell me, for some reason. James told her something very sensitive and she promised not to tell anyone, but I needed to know for sure, and I decided to browse through her phone. Honestly, this isn't the first time I've looked through her phone. I've done it twice before when I suspected she was hiding anything from me, and both times I found nothing noteworthy. As much as you may say, a lack of trust drives someone to check their partner's phone. I believe what she doesn't know will not harm her, and it also allows me to determine whether the truth matches what she tells me. On those other occasions, I discovered that she was not hiding anything, which increased my trust in her. This time, however, things were different. I eventually stole her smartphone after she fell asleep and I went directly to her messages with James. He appeared to be the one with whom she had spent the most time that night. There were a lot of messages on the same wedding day, but the most of them arrived after we returned to the hotel room. I scrolled all the way back to the beginning of the day and saw a message from her that stated, "Can I come around?" He then responded with the eyes emoji. Following that he replied yes. The next texts were from that evening. Before I began reading them, I realized my fiancée had told me she was going to the room where the girls were getting their makeup done by a traveling makeup artist. That was around the same time. She messaged James. I quickly exited and proceeded to her conversations, where I noticed her wondering where my girlfriend was. It took her a bit to respond, but she claimed she was on the way. I was terrified to return to the text with James, but I did, and it took me a while to pull together the context of their talk that evening, but I ultimately did. As long as you don't try to come clean, we'll be good. My girlfriend said, "Trust me, I am not. I have a lot more to lose in this situation than you have. This is the very worst timing, James. This was the only possible timing, especially because we had waited so long. In the first place, we did not wait for anything. You came into my room and, on the verge of marriage, there was something alluring about you becoming a reality. It was considered taboo and there was the appeal. I am aware that I made a mistake, but did you like it?" My girlfriend stated, followed by a smiley emoji. That is not the point. You can like something while knowing you shouldn't have done it. You seem to have a conscience today, but you didn't. While I was naked in front of you, I botched up. Yes, I enjoyed it. Yes, this will not happen again. I've reached a point in my life when such behavior is no longer acceptable. And no, I'm not stupid enough to try to tell you, please indulge me and tell me what you enjoyed the most. I had always fantasized about you, and this was like a dream come true for me. I just want to know how well things went, for you. Give me something to treasure if this cannot occur again. James then went on to describe their sexual encounter in around 2 paragraphs, discuss what he enjoyed most about her body and what she did. I hadn't realized my hand was shaking with wrath until I couldn't read the computer anymore. I'm not sure how, but in the thick of my wrath, I managed to record as much of this incriminating conversation as possible on my phone. I then departed my motel room. I recall walking about aimlessly that night trying to make sense of my thoughts, but everything was a mess at the moment. It was a level of emotional suffering that caused bodily pain. I just wanted to curl into a ball. However, somewhere in the midst of all that misery, I felt comfort because I knew I was dating a cheater and that I could terminate things without going through the pain of divorce. James and I had recently married and I couldn't believe my girlfriend and I's wedding would be more than 2 years away. I may have ended up with a cheater without knowing anything about it. Here is the thing I know. I want to break up with her, but here's where I need help. They literally just married James. I'm not sure whether I should tell her what I know. It is clearly the appropriate thing to do, morally speaking. However, some people prefer blissful ignorance if the alternative to the truth causes them irreparable harm. I'm not sure what kind of girl May is. I could just break up with my girlfriend and explain why, but I would never expose James, or I could face him and tell him. I understand, but is this truly a punishment for him? I'm really perplexed, but I've been dating this girl for 4 years and I'm deeply heartbroken. I need to get back at her without doing anything unlawful. As much as numerous illicit activities have appealed to me. I'm looking forward to hearing any suggestions. You guys have to help me out. Edit. A common criticism is that I should not be accountable or concerned about what she does with the information I give her. The argument is that I should do the right thing by telling her, and whether or not she hates me, for it is irrelevant, as long as I did what was ethically right. I believe a larger part of me agrees with that perspective. I'm not trying to be a homewrecker, especially so early in my marriage, but I think that may be the only way I can proceed. Edit. One commenter suggested that I get in bed with him, seeing as it is the most just type of vengeance I can exact. I was amused by that, and it appears that the commenter was joking. Hopefully, but that's not how I roll. In general, you can choose to cheat back if you know you are unable to quit the relationship for any reason. But there is no compelling reason to stay with a cheater if you have all the right conditions to unload their buttocks. That's what I'm going for. To pour or not. To spill the moral high ground is nice, but the route less traveled is riddled with potholes and vengeful dreams. You might be the hero or inform the op, but be prepared for retribution. After all, messengers of doom are rarely celebrated or keep things basic. Break up with her. Tell the truth. Let the chips fall where they may. You will be doing the correct thing. And what about your ex-girlfriend and James? Well, it's funny how things work out for me. Update 2. Hello buddies. This is me and I'm back. I am delighted to be able to provide this update so quickly after the previous post. I believe it has only been about a month, but I am quite pleased with how things have progressed, and I honestly do not believe they could have gone any better. Let me get into it. The first thing I did was get rid of my girlfriend. Now, ex, thank God. After the wedding vacation, we returned home. I told her I wanted to talk with her. I made sure we were both sat down, and the first thing I said was, I know you slept with James. She became white and her eyes bulged. She began stuttering as if she were trying to think of something to defend herself, but it was clear it wouldn't work for her. She had nothing to say. To be honest, she had no idea how I found out, but there was no point in trying to dispute it. If I knew, I told her I was going to spend 1 hour in the living room, and that was all I gave her to collect her belongings and arrange for someone to come retrieve her. After that, I planned to kick her out and call the cops if necessary, and anything she left behind would be donated to Goodwill or thrown away. I told her that her time had begun, but she remained on the couch, tears flowing down her cheeks. There was no sound. She managed to croak a little. I'm sorry that I didn't. Before she began to sob, I simply shook my head and laughed. 5 minutes later she was still seated in front of me. I told her that her time was running out, and she eventually stood up to leave. When an hour had gone on, I informed her, and she emerged dragging 2 suitcases behind her buddy, who she had contacted at the moment, pulled out a third one. I assumed she had all she needed, since frankly, I wasn't kidding when I said I'd donate or destroy the rest of it. I didn't want any of it inside my house. I didn't want to be reminded of her in any way, and I eventually got rid of everything, since I forbade her from coming back after she walked out the door. It was the last time I saw her in person. She came back and started hing on my door pleading to chat, but I never opened it. She didn't come after that. I was overjoyed to have broken up with her, but that wasn't all I had planned. The second thing I did was name it. Emily. I would have wanted to go see her in person to let her know how serious things were, but I wasn't going to go that far. When she answered the phone, I checked to make sure the time was not the same as hers, and I did my best to prepare her for this. When she responded, "Get it out of here," I had something incredibly heavy to say. I just let her hear it. I told her that my ex-girlfriend and her husband had slept together on the day of the wedding. I told her everything. I know, for example, what I believe that was the only time, but the only thing I left out were the graphic details that I had. The misfortune of reading. The other end of the line remained silent for an extended period of time. I had to admit to her that I wasn't sure if telling her was the right decision or if she would have preferred not to know. She merely apologized and expressed gratitude that I had told her that was what she would always desire. She was surprised that my ex-girlfriend, a longtime friend, would hurt her so badly. I fell for her because as horrible as things were for me, they were even worse for her. This was her high school love, and he had recently become her husband anyway. She said she handled the situation and thanked me. About a week later I knew May had pulled the trigger, because my ex-girlfriend called me and for some reason I bothered to answer the phone to hear what she said. She was furious with me for ruining their marriage. She appeared to be in an altruistic attitude as she stated that it was fine that I broke up with her, but it did not have to wreck a fresh marriage. She explained that she had no need to meddle because she didn't know the two of them in that way, they had decided to terminate things straight away. I just chuckled and hung up with her. It was humorous to me that she was attempting to be morally upright in any sense. The second thing I did was expose on social media instead of doing it myself. I heard in her comments that someone could help me with the tedious job for a low cost. I told her the whole scenario, including the chat, and he started to work on all of her social media accounts. Apparently, she couldn't submit a new video without the guy logging in with his accounts. When one was blocked, he switched to another. It sparked a lot of discussion among her supporters, to the point where she had to disable comments on all of her posts about 2 weeks after the beginning. She said simply quit posting. It's been almost 2 weeks now and she hasn't posted, which is weird, considering she would generally post close to 5 times a week. Something about that makes me pleased. I realize she might be attempting to wait it out, but I'll be back for when she decides to try and bounce back the internet. Doesn't forget this is the funniest portion of the entire thing. When May informed all of her relatives that the marriage had ended. They were obviously quite curious about how things ended and she made it abundantly apparent. Emily is allegedly a sweetheart and many aunts, uncles and cousins adore her. Biker family intend to raise a ruckus at James's residence, according to May. They roughed him up a lot. However, the best part for me is that they also visited my ex-girlfriend's residence. I'm not sure how they got her address, but they did somehow. They did not damage her, but they did scare the snot out of her, and the last I heard she had left her sister's house and relocated out of state. I'm not sure if this is only temporary, but it's hilarious that her adultery caused her to flee like a fugitive, so I broke up with her and made certain that the cheating room was discovered by his wife. I helped to end Max's online career, get her out and dump some of her belongings. I beat up my affair partner just enough to scare her away, and my ex fled the state. That, in my opinion, is the pinnacle of revenge, and I really feel a lot better. Being cheated on isn't nice, but it appears that retribution is the best medicine, especially if done well. Make sure it hurts your brothers and sisters and you'll feel better afterwards. Thank you to everyone for their aid and assistance along the process, and I will make sure to return the favor to future posters in need. Imagine attempting to take the moral high ground when you are the one who can't keep it in her trousers. I mean, breaking up a new marriage isn't ideal, but neither is screwing the guy on his wedding day. The hypocrisy is almost overwhelming, but you've kicked your cheating ex out, exposed the groom, ruined her online job, roughed up the cheater and sent your ex scurrying for the hills. Remember, sometimes the greatest way to move on is to burn bridges so completely that there is no turning back. Here's to your newfound independence and the sweet taste of success. Here is the next story. At the beginning of my career, I was a driven young executive looking to advance in the banking profession. Fresh out of college, I quickly rose through the ranks, garnering the admiration of my co-workers. My hard work was rewarded with a major promotion and a generous bonus. Life appeared ideal with a successful profession, supportive friends and a stunning fiancée named Lisa. We were arranging our wedding and everything appeared to be falling into place. However, my profession required long hours and I observed small changes in Lisa's behavior. She had been kind and attentive before, but now she appeared distant. I chalked it up to pre-wedding stress, but the anxiety persisted. Despite my efforts to bond, the distance between us widened, leading me to rethink our connection. One evening, while at a friend's house, I checked my phone, which was linked to my apartment security cameras after hearing unusual noises. To my surprise, I noticed Lisa with my best man and another groomsman. These were the same people who had just celebrated with me on a trip to the Gold Coast. We had spent the weekend at the races, the casino and relaxing by the pool. On Sunday we were asked to leave our hotel because of a noise complaint and we discovered tablets in our room. We boarded a ready aircraft back to Sydney after being unable to find new accommodation. My surviving buddies demanded that we continue our party to Nick's place. despite feeling nauseated from all of the drinking. I consented out of gratitude for their efforts. Lisa was at her bachelorette celebration in Sydney, so I was not shocked that my phone went to voicemail. Lisa moved in with me 2 months ago after her lease expired. I had recently purchased a 2-bedroom penthouse, making it convenient for her to move in. Her parents, who are strong Catholics like myself, were excited about our planned wedding at Nick's residence. My friends quickly fell asleep and I went to a bedroom for some much-needed slumber. Suddenly, my downstairs neighbor texted me to complain about the noise. Confused, I responded to clarify the error, only to receive another message accusing me of raising a commotion, with Lisa shocked. I realized something was seriously wrong. Now I was perplexed. He looked certain he had the correct number. What was going on? Fortunately, I could find out without relocating. The former tenant remodeled the penthouse and her overprotective wealthy father installed remote access cameras. When I purchased the apartment, the agent set up the system on my phone. I'd only used it a few times, but now it was critical. I signed in and selected the living room camera, which revealed beer bottles, wine glasses, a bong and a bag of pills. On the coffee table there were no people, but clothing was spread around, hearing noises elsewhere. I switched to the bedroom camera. The moonlight illuminated a tangle of bodies on my bed. I recognized their voices. It was my fiancé and his friends. My heart sunk as I recognized the betrayal, filled with fury and disbelief. I realized I needed a plan for vengeance. Checking the recordings, I saw that the hard drive stored 24 hours of footage. The video was unclear due to the limited lighting. Their conversations were incriminating. Lisa and the guys talked about the wedding and James boasted of a plan to distract me while they had fun. Lisa remarked that not using birth control is like playing Russian roulette with our future. Disgusted, I disconnected from the system. The hard drive continued to record in a concealed cupboard. Unable to sleep, I went into the living room where Nick and Mark were snoring. I resisted the temptation to strike. Nick grabbed a beer and flipped through an old newspaper. A headline attracted my attention. Police caution against drinking alcohol. It identified an organization that targets drunk ladies. An idea formed. My phone just buzzed again. My neighbor had made a noise complaint to the police. Perfect, I called the cops, ready to put my plan into effect. You've contacted New South Wales Police. How can we help? The dispatcher asked. Oh my God, you need to enter my apartment. My fi might be in trouble. I said hysterically, sir, calm down. Could you please provide any details? The dispatcher responded, how do I calm down? Please contact someone immediately. I demanded, sir, why do you think this is happening? The dispatcher asked, still peaceful. My neighbor had complained about the noise, but I am not there. I'm here. Kindly send someone over. I pleaded. How do you know your neighbor has complained? She asked. He messaged me and claimed he'd filed a noise complaint. Kindly, send someone. I am imploring you. I indicated that the noise complaint was lodged. At what address, she inquired, making me feel like I was speaking with a call center. I gave her my address. Please wait a moment. She said. She came back 30 seconds later. I'm moving you. She said. After another 30 seconds a man's voice appeared. Is this Staff Sergeant Potts from the Sexual Crimes Unit who was calling? He asked. Thank heavens, I'm Adam Spencer. Please send someone from my fiancé. Something dreadful is occurring. I pretended to cry. We have a unit nearby. Is there a chance it is someone else? Or does she have someone there? Sergeant Potts inquired. Whimpering didn't work, so I tried rage. We are getting married in 3 weeks. If the delay harms her, I will sue you and the agency. I will appear on television and write to every publication under your name. I threatened. Calm down, so we'll investigate. What is your fiancée's name and what did she do tonight? Sergeant Potts inquired, attempting to reassure me. Lisa. She attended a bachelorette party at King's Cross. I said okay, we have a unit in the area. They'll stop by. Are you making the call from your cell? We need your phone number to keep you updated. He explained. Yes, should I go there too? I inquired, still frantic. No, stay put until we get back to you. He commanded and then hung up. It did not go as I had hoped. I wanted them to rush in immediately. My phone buzzed 20 minutes later with a text message from my neighbor. Sorry, buddy, I assumed it was you. Police are making their way up, weapons, helmets, everything. I hope George is okay. I pray for you both. The text reads, holy crap. They purchased it. I enter back into the security system and turn to the living room camera. I didn't see anything. Yet 3 minutes passed, then the door slowly opened. 2 officers in bulletproof jackets and weapons drawn entered, signaled, and 4 others followed. I switched to the bedroom camera where commotion ensued. Cops stormed in saying, armed police, get down. James and Paul were promptly handcuffed. What the hell is this? James shouted, that's the last girl you'll see for a time, and cop yelled what? Paul continued. She certainly didn't mind. They hauled the guys outside. A police officer wrapped a blanket around Lisa to comfort her. It's okay, Lisa, you're safe now. She told me that the sergeant would contact your fiancé and arranged for him to meet us at the hospital. At the hospital? Lisa inquired, perplexed. Yes, we will inspect you. Would you like to have your mother there? The hospital has an excellent team for survivors. The policewoman made an offer. Lisa appeared surprised. Survivors? She stammered, it's okay, honey, they can't hurt you anymore. Take your time. The paramedics will be here shortly. The policewoman reassured her. This will be intriguing. Will she lie or acknowledge it was consensual, revealing her real colors? Everyone here knows she is engaged. I switched cameras to check on James and Paul. They sat in their underwear like a cop. I questioned them about the drugs, but they remained silent. I believe you've entered into dealer territory, risking at least 3 years in prison. Help us now, so we can all go to bed early. They remained mute. All right, have it your way. Take them to the station. The cop ordered that the cops lead the youngsters out. Another officer motioned for the woman to get out, and they spoke discreetly. After a minute, the man took out his cell phone and dialed. My phone began ringing. Hello. I tried to seem worried as possible. Mr. Spencer. This is Staff Sergeant Potts. He said, what happened? Did you find Lisa? Is she okay? I bombarded him with questions. Calm down, Mr. Spencer. We found your fiancée. She'll be transferred to the hospital shortly. Sergeant Potts responded. Is she okay? I asked frantically. Yes, this is only a precaution. We'll arrive at St. Vincent in about 10 minutes. Call me when you arrive and I'll give you further information. He informed me, then hung up before I could respond. I got a cab and left Nick's house, not knowing how the police would handle the issue. Will they believe Lisa or James and Paul? To manage this, I needed to be vigilant. At the hospital, a constable greeted me and brought me to a separate room. A tall, slim man with a hook nose was on the phone. The constable informed him that I was present. The man terminated his phone call and approached me with an outstretched hand. Staff Sergeant Potts. He stated this while shaking my hand. Adam Spencer, where's my fiancée? I asked. She is with the doctor. You will see her soon, but I need to say something first. We sat down after he pointed to a chair. 5 armed officers invaded your apartment and arrested 2 individuals. They are being questioned now. He said, your fiancée, Lisa. I interrupted. Lisa is being scrutinized. Check be done shortly. Meanwhile, I have a few questions for you. He proceeded. Is it necessary? I asked angry. Yes, he made it clear that her well-being is our top priority. I want to see her. I mumbled and you will, but first where were you tonight? He asked. Why does this matter? I replied if you were home, Lisa would not be here. He pointed out I was at a friend's home. We arrived late from Brisbane and one of my buddies urged I stay overnight. I explained where was that. He inquired Rennick or a nearby suburb. I responded. When did your neighbor notify you about the noise? He proceeded. I will check my phone. 11:45 p.m. I responded, gazing at my phone. I'd like to show you some photos. Let me know if you recognize these men. He explained, showing me several images. Is this the typical procedure? I asked with skepticism. It is only a hun. He pointed out that these two appear to be office workers rather than criminals. He showed me photos and I was astonished and enraged. Why do you have photos of James and Paul? I demanded. Who are they? He asked. James is my best man. Paul was one of my groomsmen. Why were they in my apartment? I inquired, bewildered. They were the two naked men we discovered. He said, why didn't they attend your party? He asked. They left Brisbane early, claiming they had work. I responded that is what they stated. I slumped in my chair, attempting to appear despondent. A voice from behind interrupted. Excuse me, Mick. Emily, I have a word. It was the policewoman from my flat. Could you take a walk outdoors, Mr. Spencer? She asked. I left my phone recording the conversation. They spoke gently before leaving. I will be right back with your fiancée. Sergeant Potts reassured me. I'm sorry, Lisa. I muttered as I listened to the recording. We've completed all of the checks. I prepared a statement, but she has not signed it. The policewoman said, how are you feeling about that? Potts asked. It appears weird that she had an affair, but consent does not appear to be an issue. Her story reads like a television script. Emily, we caught her having one last fling before the wedding. She said, I agree, the guys do not fit the crime. Her boyfriend seemed shocked. HDS mentioned. How do we proceed? She asked, let us your gorgeous statement. Emily, you'll remember something I forgot to ask before she signs. She is reminded about the penalties for perjury. He advised, okay, so how far can I push her? She inquired, just enough to terrify her and obtain the facts. Pot said he stood up and said, let us go see her. They left the room. I paused the tape wondering what Lisa might do. It was time to take my revenge. I called the contact. Eric Town is speaking. Eric answered. Eric contributed to the business section and a gossip piece called CBD. I met him at a fundraiser and we hit it off. Hey, Eric, this is Adam. I greeted him. Adam, what is happening at this hour? He expressed amazement. I've got a story for you. Is your column for tomorrow done? I asked. Just finished, it has been quiet. Do you have any juicy gossip? He inquired. Is it too late to inform you? I asked if you hurry and he responded. I revealed that two young executives were in an interrogation room. Seriously, can I use names? He inquired. Curiously, only if you wish to file a lawsuit. I warned. I'll put it in the Guess Who section. He said Eric's column featured a Guess Who section for juicy unnamed gossip. It was popular with city office workers. James and Paul. I spoke evenly. Your best man and groomsmen. Who are they attacking? Eric asked. My fiancée, or should I say ex-fiancée. I couldn't keep my bitterness hidden. Oh, Eric paused. I'm not particularly surprised. What does this mean? I raised my voice, prompting a sharp glance from a passing nurse. There were whispers surrounding Lisa and her boss. Eric speculated that she may have been given as a client incentive. Damn that, how did I become so blind? I mumbled at him. It's called love. Would you like me to run this story? He asked. Yes, burn them. I answered, consider it finished. He reassured me. We hung up. A policewoman approached. I am Constable Haven. Can we speak? Lisa will be here soon and I want to help you both. She explained. I smiled and allowed her to counsel me, even if it was tedious. Lisa arrived with Sergeant Potts. I pretended to be a concerned fiancé, reassuring her while strategizing my next move. 3 of my wedding party members were in danger, but there was still 2 to go. The cops handed me their business cards and we left on the way home. Lisa thanked me and expressed her love for me at our apartment began cleaning. Lisa wanted me in bed, but I needed to check with my doctor beforehand. Come on honey, hold me. Lisa said I will be there soon, simply cleaning up. She finally went to bed. I retrieved and viewed the video from my hard drive. It was apparent that no abuse had occurred. Lisa and the men talked about medications and business transactions. It was sufficient for possession with the intent to distribute. I intended to give the film to the police at noon, but I decided to call her immediately to demonstrate that I wasn't hiding anything. I dialed Sergeant Potts and was shocked when he answered. Welcome Staff Sergeant Potts. He sounded annoyed. I prayed I hadn't awakened him. It's Adam Spencer. I met you at the hospital when picking up my fiancée. Did I awaken you? I asked. No, I work the night shift. I don't go to bed till 8. His mood remained nasty. I don't want to take up your time, but I paused for impact. My apartment has 3 security cameras that are connected to a hard disk. I snorted and cleared my throat. Why didn't you mention it earlier? Did you watch the footage? His interest peaked with everything going on. I had forgotten when I viewed the footage. I stopped pretending to be strong and cried. What did you see, Adam? Are you there? He pressed. I don't believe it was maltreatment. They entered laughing and kissing. I let out a choked shriek. What about the pills? He asked. I observed them. Put the pills on the coffee table. I admitted I need that tape. 2 lawyers here have threatened to file lawsuits. Could you mail it? He requested I'll email it to you. Give me the address. I said. He gave me the address and then hung up. I sent all of the footage from the 3 cameras. Then I tried but couldn't sleep. Around 5 the phone rang. Sorry for waking you. Sergeant Potts sounded considerably more cheerful. I was in bed but couldn't fall asleep. Understandable, I said sternly. Can we meet for coffee at 00? I'd like to discuss a few topics. He asked. Sure, I have no plans. I said coldly. There's a coffee shop in Sir Hills near the Oxford Tavern. Do you know it? He inquired. Yeah, I verified that. I will see you at 8. I tried to sleep but ended up lying awake around 7:00 a.m. so I washed. Lisa was still sleeping or pretending to be. I watched the morning news in an attempt to divert myself. A tale grabbed my interest. Police carried out a pre-dawn raid in Bronte. 2 guys involved in a pill trafficking organization have been apprehended. Neighbors described the resident as a polite young man who worked in a bank. Police have not given any information yet. Screw you idiots. Sergeant Potts would be satisfied. I dressed to meet the sergeant but then remembered my conversation with the gossip columnist. I looked at the online supplement to the CBI column. Guess who won't? Sue. It stated that a high-profile publicist and girl about town is postponing her wedding after being caught with 2 newlyweds. Her former fiancé, a rising star in private banking, was not one of them. Perfect. The city would be bustling. I suddenly remembered George's parents. They deserved to hear the news firsthand. I called them immediately. Jack, George's father, answered. "Hey, Adam, how is your weekend going?" Jack inquired. "It ended prematurely after a fight in Brisbane. Emily, I meet you in Janice this morning." I asked what had happened to Adam. His voice quivered. "I don't want to discuss it over the phone, Jack. It has nothing to do with this morning's paper. Jack, a retired city worker, read the business section every day. I will explain everything in person. Can you come to town?" I asked. "Okay, we'll arrive around 11. Where would you like to meet?" He asked. "The bakery shop near your old office." I commented that they still have the best goodies. "Okay, see you there. Just one thing, Adam. Please avoid making rash conclusions until you have all of the facts." Jack pleaded. "Jack, I already know too much. I apologize." My eyes filled with real tears after saying goodbye. I went outdoors. It was a wonderful sunny day in Sydney. Late autumn is always the best. The sun is not too severe and the humidity is modest. I chose to walk to my meeting. I arrived a little late. Sergeant Potts was ready to leave as I entered the cafe. I assumed bankers were prompt. He said, "I am still on vacation." I responded grumpily as I sat down. He smiled. "Good news." The CCTV footage was really informative. It provided us much to work with. We separated them, and when we asked about the pills, they each assumed the other sold them. The waitress delivered my orange juice and his warm milk. Police work has evolved. He spoke while sipping his milk. We got Nick's name and searched his home, discovering more. The drug vision is ecstatic. Nick is attempting to strike a bargain by giving up his supplier. What happened to them now? I asked. They have a bail hearing tomorrow morning. Nick may also be involved. If he receives a bargain, he will respond in a public hearing. I inquired. Yes, he grinned. Their lawyers secured a secret hearing, but the prosecutor wants it made public. It appears that you do too. He unfolded the Morning Herald and revealed the CBI column. I don't understand what you mean. I attempted to appear innocent. Your surveillance system can include remote access and a time map. He suggested that I acquire a warrant and see for myself. Perhaps by then the hard disk will be corrupted. I responded and he chuckled. Keep your shirt on, Adam. I am not after you. I want to know what you want to happen to Lisa. He asked, what do you mean? I asked. She could face perjury charges, but they may be dismissed as a first offense alternative lie. We may forget about it unless you seek retaliation, which appears likely. He waved the paper. I'm not sure what you mean. I play dumb. If you want me to press charges, call me after 6 tonight, otherwise I'll bury it. He got up and departed. I finished my juice and strolled into the brilliant sunlight, going for the metropolis. The next stage of my vengeance was to arrive at work. Appearing untidy and miserable. This would spark talk and upset James and Paul. As I entered the bank foyer, I saw guards elbowing each other and pointing at me. This continued as I moved towards the elevators. I climbed on the first one and was joined by a number of others. The mailman raced in as the doors closed. Adam, how was your weekend? The secretary pretended to lose her balance before kicking the cart into the mailman's shins. Oh, be careful, miss. He left on the next floor, still scratching his shins. The others in the elevator remained mute. Staring at the floor, I wrote to the top level requesting the CEO's office. Only the receptionist remained. Having subdued the mailman, she placed her hand on my shoulder. I am sorry for what happened. If you need to speak, here's my number. She handed me a piece of paper and walked away. I tossed the message in the garbage. I am guessing she had a stack of them. I approached the CEO's office. His secretary, a tough woman, regarded me over her glasses. "Adam, dear, what are you doing here? You have 2 days off." I had never seen her so conciliatory. I wondered if I could see Mr. Turnbull for a moment. I blushed under her empathetic stare. "He is taking a break between calls. I will check to see if he can see you." She slid out of her chair, knocked on the door and glanced inside to ask. She reappeared smiling. "Mr. Turnbull will be right with you, have a seat." She climbed back into her chair. I sat down. She seemed to pause before speaking. "I was abandoned on the altar." "At least you found out at times." She soon returned to her job, perhaps regretting her remark. Mr. Turnbull shortly emerged and invited me inside. He was a big man with graying curly hair who enjoyed going for jogs at lunchtime. He motioned for me to sit. "Adam, I was not expecting you. Given the circumstances, it's better to hear your narrative now." He spoke with nervousness, which was unusual for him. "I came to request time off due to personal concerns with other employees and the PR firm. I began by saying that you should be aware of what was going on." "Yes, please explain," he urged. "I got back early from a retreat at a friend's place. My neighbor sent me a text about sounds in my flat and I assumed it was a break-in. I phoned the cops. They discovered pills and my fiancée with James and Paul. I paused to settle myself using a handkerchief. Oh dear, Mr. Turnbull muttered as he leaned forward. "James, Paul and Nick are in custody." I continued, "Oh dear, this is negative for the company." "What exactly did Lisa say?" he asked. "I haven't spoken to her since I spoke with the cops." I admitted, "Oh dear, this is a horrible situation. Those 2 will not return here. Take all the time you need. Call me on Monday to discuss further." He leaned back with relief as I departed. I inquired what about the public relations firm. He was nervous again. "Since James and Paul handled the tender process, an internal investigation will be conducted. I will speak with Jeremy. He said they the CEO." His reaction raised my suspicions. Mr. Turnbull could be involved. Based on Eric's explanation of George's function and James and Paul's statements, I needed a greater plot to exact full vengeance. I got a cab to the bakery to meet George's parents. I arrived early and ordered a coffee, checking my security system. I noticed Lisa in the kitchen frantically texting. Soon she allowed someone in. It was Mark. She attempted to kiss him, but he dodged her. They walked into the living room where Lisa aggressively chased him while Mark kept his distance. She eventually relaxed on a chaise lounge, while Mark sat opposite. Due to the public environment, I was unable to hear their talk. She threw herself at him and wrapped her arms around his neck. I looked around to be sure her folks had not arrived. Yet when I looked back, the scene had abruptly shifted. There was a knock on the window and George's father waved. "I'm heading toward the door." Jack approached the table alone. I stood up to shake his hand. Then we sat down. "Isn't your wife coming?" I asked. "No." After reading the CBD editorial, I decided it was best to arrive alone. Janice had high blood pressure, so I left her at home. Jack said, motioning for coffee. "You're probably correct. However, that slanderous column was correct. You should sue him." Jack suing would be expensive and unlikely to succeed. Jack responded. The waitress delivered coffee and Jack waited for her to depart. "What do you mean by it's true?" he asked. "The police entered my apartment last night after receiving a noise complaint and discovered James and Paul with Lisa in our bed. I suggested that they must have forced her, but Jack insisted. They first believed the same thing, but it turned out they were mistaken. I answered that is ridiculous. My daughter would never do that." Jack was losing his composure. "I apologize, Jack, but the photographs do not lie. The wedding is off," I stated strongly. People are always creating false photos. Jack, seeing is believing type, was in denial. I didn't want to insult him, and I also didn't want to be the bad person. I opened the live security stream on my phone. It means nothing. It's probably staged with an actress, he said, setting my phone face down. This is a live feed. It's occurring now. I asked, what kind of sick freak are you? I'm delighted Janice isn't here for your insane delusions. When I informed Lisa she won't approach you. Jack began to climb. Sit down. Jack. I shouted to attract attention. He sat shocked. Give me your phone. He reluctantly gave it over. I called George's number. My phone screen displayed her reaching for her phone. Jack slumped, looking elderly and frail. I am sorry, Jack. You should have known the wedding is off. You and Janice do not deserve this, but I cannot go through with it. I said. Jack nodded and wiped away tears. Did you tell her yet? No, I replied that she was asleep when I departed to meet with the cops. Good God, she doesn't know. You know, and now she's back with that guy. Jack exclaimed, horrified. This is not the same guy. Let us get some fresh air. I suggested we leave the coffee shop and walk in the park, talking about anything except Lisa. Jack eventually decided to return home, so we walked to the taxi stop. When are you going to tell her? Jack inquired. When she has a free minute. I spoke, bitterness slipping into my voice. Jack turned away. A part of me still loves her. Jack, part of me believes this is a nightmare, but the rest of me wishes to destroy her and the men who touched her. I confessed. Please let me know before you proceed. I will come together. A parent cannot stop loving his daughter. Jack spoke softly. Sure, Jack, I will let you know. We shook hands uncomfortably before he got into a taxi. I sought a quiet location in the park and reviewed the CCTV tape again. Lisa was wearing her robe and Mark was lacing his shoes. Mark is engaged to one of Australia's richest women. Was being foolish. Penny Rehill, Jackie Rehill's daughter, belonged to a rich family. Regardless of her appearance, she was a wonderful girl who adored Mark. My father used to say that you can marry more in 5 minutes than you can make in a lifetime. Mark worked for Penny's family business, thus his employment might be jeopardized if Penny saw the camera footage. Except for my employer. I had a plan for retaliation, but I had a plan for him too. All that remained was to get George's cooperation, and I had something to assure she met my requirements. I was curious about how Lisa would approach our issue. When I got home she was gone, delaying the confrontation and allowing me time to prepare. Mark's interview with Lisa showed that he had been sent by Paul and James's lawyers to investigate what she had told the police. I considered charging Penny with witness tampering, but she was likely to impose a heavier punishment around 5 p.m. I was preparing dinner. When Lisa and her bridesmaid Shelley entered. They saw me in the kitchen and approached Lisa, who opened her arms and hugged me. Adam, honey, how are you doing? We were very worried. She sniffled as if holding back tears. I did not reply to the hug. I've been speaking with the police, my supervisor and your father. I said. Lisa stiffened but attempted to remain calm. Shelley began to describe how they drugged my drinks during the bachelorette party, got me tossed out of the bar and took advantage of Lisa. She attempted to hug me again, but I backed away. Really, is this what occurred, Shelley? I replied sarcastically, yes, just like Lisa said, it was simply a little fun that became out of control. Shell was astonished by my comments. Lisa appeared to be panicked. You're on your own now. Shelley growled and turned to leave. Lisa attempted to stop her, but Shelley shoved her away. I knew you were a party girl, but I had no idea you were this promiscuous. She snapped and slammed the door. Lisa turned to me and sobbed. She whispered apologies, saying that if I had stayed with her, it would not have occurred. Why is it always somebody else's fault? Will you simply shut up? I shouted. Do you honestly believe I care about your justifications and lies? But this morning I was drunk and are upset. It's only twice. I'll be okay, please. Just twice, I imitated Tom's voice. God, I've missed you back so much. Lisa was astonished. Do you remember? When you moved in, I told you about the security system and cameras. Yes, but you claimed you didn't utilize them. I replied no, yet they still work. They confirmed that you are a lying cheat. I replied. She cried harder, leaning against the wall. She appeared sad. I opted not to inform the sergeant about her perjury until I knew why she did it. I assisted her to the kitchen table, retrieved 2 beers and sat across from her. We're finished, I said. She nodded. The police want to know whether I intend to charge you with perjury. I have till 6:00 p.m. to decide. You have half an hour to honestly answer my questions, after which I will tell them to forget it. Thank you, Adam. Don't, she pleaded, respond to my questions or wait for the police. I replied strongly. She nodded and took a sip of beer. Have you slept with your boss? I asked. She nodded and wiped her eyes. For how long? I continued. She sniffled and said it had been around 9 months. You only stayed 15 minutes. What the hell? I exclaimed. I was chosen for a new striking team. My supervisor, Jeremy, was not pleased with my efforts. He told me I needed to highlight my skills. She explained, why did you put up with this? You are the miracle child, the youngest to get a 1 million bonus. I was on my 3rd job in 2 years, attempting to establish a name for myself. I remarked, my wrath rising. Entertaining. Your employer may get you noticed, but not in a positive way. I brought them for large accounts. She responded defensively. I cannot believe you are bragging about being a corporate strumpet. They'll now abandon you and you'll have to start performing tricks for real. I shot back. Jeremy requested backup, so I secretly filmed a few encounters. I kept copies to cover myself. She admitted, interesting. If I could get a copy of one with you and Mr. Turnbull, I might be able to get him removed. Where are the copies? I inquired, hoping they weren't working on my desk at work. She admitted, crap. I exclaimed, slamming the beer bottle down. What's the matter? Lisa appeared astonished. I need a copy for both you and Mr. Turnbull, I remarked, coming up to the window. I never, she began. I turned to give her a harsh glare. Well, she stammered. How did you figure this out? She asked. It's evident that you use your assets to get new customers. I pointed out that our bank was a new customer. If you really desired it, I will go to work and make a copy. Lisa exclaimed, standing abruptly and knocking over her chair. She grabbed her keys. You aren't going through the front door, I called after her. She paused and turned. What do you mean? She asked. Your employer will hide his tracks. You'll be greeted by a guard holding a box of your belongings. They refuse to let you near the computer, I explained, Lisa biting her lip and tossing her keys onto the desk. She walked back and went into the office. I peered inside. Lisa was seated in my chair, turning on my computer. I can access my PC remotely, Lisa stated triumphantly. I watched as she repeatedly entered the access code. Her shoulders dropped as she learned she was shut out. Damn idiots. She slumped back and sat up with newfound enthusiasm. There's a back door into Jeremy's computer. Yes, indeed, I'm in. I moved behind her chair. Copy everything, I said. You need leverage to negotiate a severance payout. More significantly, I wanted to disrupt my boss's life. I stepped out and Lisa emerged approximately 20 minutes later, happy and holding a portable hard drive. She claimed to have all of the exciting stuff. Did you receive copies of his emails? I asked. Yeah, but I thought I had raised my hand. Stop, I've seen enough of you in action to last a lifetime. I just want a backup plan in case the bank comes after me too. But I wondered if we could try again, sell everything, move overseas and make a new beginning. She pleaded, there's nothing new about you, Lisa. Seeing you alongside James and Paul was one thing. But today, Mark, you require assistance. I said I'm not sticking around. She cried again. I took the hard disk and entered the office. Lisa dashed into the bedroom, slamming the door. The hard disk performed better than I had imagined. Jeremy and Mr. Turnbull were longtime pals who had colluded to scam the bank. Turnbull wanted to increase his pension, so he had Jeremy inflate the PR contract proposal. They shared the difference 50. 50 THS. I called Sergeant Potts and he answered on the second ring. Sergeant Potts remarked, I thought you had forgotten. I checked my watch. 6:05 p.m. No, I just needed to make sure. So what's up? He asked, yawning. Do not confront her. She'll feel uncomfortable without it. Do you know someone from the fraud squad? I asked. Perhaps, he responded cautiously. Why? I'll explain later, I said, hesitant to reveal too much. Oh dear, he grinned. Who is the target this time? Wait and see. I hung up and asked George's father to fetch her up. I like to sleep in my own bed. Then I downloaded the session with Mark and Lisa and forwarded it to Penny, his fiancée. It was difficult to press send, but it was necessary. Jack came approximately 40 minutes later. Lisa finally emerged. Alb. It took some time. I gathered her clothing and they left. My telephone rang. It was Eric from the newspaper. Did you enjoy my column today? He inquired with enthusiasm. Yes, I responded bluntly. Come on, we didn't back out, did we? He pressed. I wanted to hit back at them. But I heard others as well. I said, thinking of Jack and Janice, there is always collateral harm in battle. Who would you like me to target next? Eric asked. I thought for a moment. Are you still there? Eric asked. Yeah, just thinking 3 bankers caught with a marijuana isn't much, he lamented. Irritated, not possession, importance and delivery. I concluded that's better, high-flying bankers. Eric laughed. Have you got anything more for me? He inquired. I will let you know. I was finished for the day. I turned off the phone, unplugged the landline, closed the blinds and attempted to fall asleep. At 9:30 a.m. the following day, someone knocked on the door. It was Greg and Adam, the building's caretaker. What exactly is wrong with your phone? I've been trying to call you. Greg explained. I switched them off so I could get some sleep. What is the matter? I asked, agitated. The DNA guys had been waiting for you downstairs for an hour. He took a step back, displaying a security guard carrying a package and a man in a suit clutching a paper. Mr. Adam Spencer. Yes, I responded. I'm from the bank's legal department. Your contract has been terminated under Section 112B for tarnishing the bank's image. This is a severance check for 2 weeks' wages and James has your personal belongings. He handed me the check and the guard placed a box on the floor. I was stunned. They were almost to the elevator when I regained consciousness. Wait. 3 weeks ago I signed a new contract that guaranteed me 9 months' income plus 50 of my previous bonus. I shouted. I don't know about that. If you wish to fight it, should you consult a lawyer? He replied by following the guard to the elevator. The building's management shrugged and followed them. Sorry friend, I picked up the box, which included my desk stuff and a few photos. I wasn't letting them get away with it. I called the lawyer who had recently examined my contract. Your new contract should be effective of immediately. Have you gotten paid? Yet? He asked. No, I replied. The money is due in my account on Thursday. That's why they're working so hard. They want you to fight. How would you like to proceed? I can start a trial and we might have a preliminary hearing before the end of the month. Is there any way I can speak with my employer before then? I have something that might influence his mind. It is not illegal, is it? He asked. Not what I did. I responded, is something missing from your office box? He inquired, no, but I keep a set of golf clubs in the storage area near the executive dining room. I explained, how much are they worth? He asked, approximately $2,000. I said, nonsense. Are they gold-plated? He responded incredulously, not quite, although they do have gold inlays, an excellent set of Honda clubs. Half a set costs around $5,000. I clarified. The lawyer whistled. I'll create an order for access. Can you get ready by 1:00 p.m.? I don't know. I have other things to do. I said. I interrupted, saying, meet me out front with the order and I'll give you the golf clubs. Okay, see you there. He agreed. I ate breakfast before heading to the office for the afternoon encounter. Mr. Turnbull was always in the executive dining room between 12:30 and 1:30 p.m., so any commotion outside would draw his attention. I checked the Herald's website to see what Eric had written. He laughed about high-fly bankers and the cancelled engagement of a $1 billion, but he made no mention of Penny or Mark. I wondered where he got that. 1:00 arrived soon and I waited in the square in front of the bank building. The lawyer arrived 5 minutes late and approached me, grabbing a document from his pocket and waving it like a trophy. I had to wait for the magistrate to complete his morning session before signing this, but here it is, he said, and what does it authorize me to do? I inquired as we approached the front door. I was hoping for general access, but he played hardball and only allowed you to go inside and retrieve your golf clubs and walk right out. He explained. I hope that is all I need. We were already at the main door. Inside, the guard who had previously returned my office stuff attempted to stop me. Excuse me, sir, I've been asked to keep you out of the building. He explained, standing in front of me and beckoning for the other two guards to assist him. I held the legal document in front of his face. This is a court order that grants me access to the building. Please get out of the way. I said firmly, attempting to pass past, but he blocked my route anyway. I need to check this first. He accepted the command and spoke into a microphone affixed to his shoulder. A few minutes later, the elevator doors opened and the same little fool who had spoken to me this morning stepped out. He accepted the court order from the guard, wore his reading glasses and swiftly examined it. Someone had a busy morning, he added, glancing up from his paper. ERS. This merely allows you to go to the storeroom and return no detours of any type. He returned the order to me, then turned to the guard and led him to the executive storage room, then return here and fling his back outside. After that he simply returned to the elevator. I proceeded toward the elevators on the left, grabbing the guard's shoulder. I got my clubs from the storeroom and headed out into the corridor, prepared to cause a disturbance. Some took my putter. I dropped my clubs and walked downfield to the executive dining room. You cannot go in there, sir, shouted the guard, seizing my arm but missing. I hurried inside the dining room, but the guard was quicker than I anticipated. He grabbed me immediately as I entered the doorway. I strained to break free, but he was stronger than he appeared. After hearing the ruckus, Mr. Turnbull appeared in the doorway. What the hell is that noise? He exclaimed, then understood who it was. What the hell is he doing here? Excuse me, sir. He has a court order, said the guard, yanking me off the ground by my collar. I stopped resisting, since my target was directly in front of me. It's good to see you, Mr. Turnbull. I replied sarcastically. I thought you would like to rethink my severance package. No way, he pointed to the guard. Get that lowlife out of here. I took a flash drive out of my pocket and tossed it to him. You should watch this when you get the chance, but not when your wife is around. Mr. Turnbull's eyes narrowed. What exactly are you talking about? Call Jeremy and he will tell you that I spat. What happens if he departs here? The mention of Jeremy's name did not bother him. Apparently he assumed the matter was resolved. He returned to the dining room, pocketing the flash drive. The guard started hauling me down the hall. "You have 24 hours. I think you have my cell phone number," I shouted as the door closed. I picked up the batons on my way out. The guard did not release grip of my arm until I was in the front yard, my parasite. I mumbled beneath my breath. "Excuse me," the guard said, but my lawyer was already waiting and had returned my clubs to me. I was really pleased if I received the deal I signed up 3 weeks ago. I could purchase another set. I was a little concerned when I didn't hear anything before retiring to bed at 11:30. My phone beeped with a text message: "Meet at the Centennial Park coffee shop at 6:45 a.m. Gotcha." I arrived at the park about 6:30 a.m. the following day. I'm hoping to get there first. Mr. Turnbull may have had the same notion because he walked on the opposite side as I did. We crowded awkwardly close, staying roughly 3 m apart. "What do you want with the tape?" he asked fiercely. I responded aggressively. "What am I owed under the new contract?" "That contract does not start until Thursday." He replied, "That is a disputed fact, and I do not have time to deal with our court system." I replied strongly. "I never considered you a blackmailer." He yelled, his face turning red. "I never thought you were a weirdo who entertained his employees' fiancées." I responded. We stood there scowling at one another until Mr. Turnbull moved away. "Okay, but I'll need the images and any duplicates you have," he conceded. "Easy. I promised to send you the images as soon as I had a signed document from the bank confirming my eligibility. You will receive them today," he said, turning to leave. "One more thing. I'd like the little legal eagle you sent yesterday to deliver the documents." This was going to be great. I said, "Anything else?" He asked sarcastically. "No, it is all I want." I replied, smiling, "Yeah." He took a step back and then moved closer. "You know you will never work in this town." "No, make it this country never again." "You little crap," he snarled. "That's a risk I am willing to accept," I replied quietly while watching him walk away. "Nice doing business with you," I remarked, laughing as he walked away. I still had the emails between Turnbull and Jeremy and planned to send them over to the fraud squad as soon as the money arrived in my bank account. The following several days went rather easily for me. The following morning, a snippy little legal eagle from the bank arrived on my doorstep with some documents for me to sign. He left me a copy and informed me that the money will be paid. On Thursday, I gave him an envelope containing a flash drive and a small portable hard drive, and he left with his tail between his legs. Thursday morning, Jack and Doris arrived and collected the last of George's belongings. They had an issue with Lisa. She got intoxicated and went to her boss's house, causing a scene in front of his wife. The police were summoned and they told her to go home before arresting her for DUI. She tested the system and promptly lost her license. James, Paul and Nick were released on bond, but the prosecution was strict. He appeared on corporate morning television. He avoided mentioning specifics to avoid endangering the cases, but the conclusion was evident, especially after the hourly news showed the 3 men exiting the courtroom and attempting to disguise their faces. Mark seems to have vanished from the face of the world. I spoke with Eric, who said there was a story that he had been taken to some South American hole by Penny's mother. The corporation was prospecting for minerals there and the people were not pleased. Thursday afternoon at 4:55 p.m. My bank account was 72,000 richer, and at 4:59 p.m. I was on the phone with Sergeant Potts. The next morning, 2 fraud squad investigators and a representative from the Investment and Securities Division arrived to visit me. I showed them the emails. They concluded that it appeared to be a fraud scheme. Then came the all-important question: how did you receive these emails? I had to admit they weren't gotten legally. The investigators were becoming irritated, believing they had wasted their time. "We know all these huge guys are operating frauds, but they are surrounded by strong legal barriers. We can't bring them in here and force them to tell their narrative. The securities representative appeared more calm. Guys, calm down. We're using these letters as clues for where to look. It will take some time, but there will be a written record. It's best to forget we've ever seen this email. I do not want to compromise any convictions. They went, leaving me alone. Mr. Turnbull seems to have started a rumor about me. I approached competitive banks with job offers, but HR representatives did not return my calls. I was strolling down the street outside my building, unsure what to do when a black sedan drew up to the curb beside me. The window rolled down and Penny Rehill was sitting in the back seat. You look as lost as I do. She spoke seriously. She then smiled widely. I refueled the company jet and am waiting for you on the tarmac. Would you like to get some rest, sit around feeling sorry for yourself, or take a vacation? I paused, stroking my chin. Give me 5 minutes and I will pack a suitcase. Screw it. Just get inside. You won't need much clothing. Where are we headed and where will we go? I asked, taking a risk in opening the car door to a family compound in Mauritius. It features its own beach pool, golf course and chef. Let's go. I exclaimed as she tapped the glass between the front and rear seats, signaling the driver to drive to the airport. After 25 minutes, we were seated in the Rainhill family's Gulf Stream and on our way. 3 weeks had grown into 5 months. A lovely holiday. Did I hook up with Penny? Sure, together with the hostess, maid and half a dozen local girls. Penny was just a crazy girl who chose to have fun. It was an incredible sight, but it is another story. Why did I return? It's simple. I wanted a front row seat to Mr. Turnbull's fraud and racketeering hearings. He stepped in at the start of the hearing, calmly speaking with his team of lawyers. The bank backed him. He had a lead, an assistant barrister, 2 assistants and a solicitor. By the conclusion of the first day, his tie had loosened and beads of sweat formed on his face as he spoke urgently to his solicitor. The case was not progressing well. The prosecution was rigorous, demonstrating a lengthy and intricate paper trail connecting Mr. Turnbull to Jeremy in the PR arrangement. At the end of the day, it was revealed that Jeremy had turned himself in the day before he admitted culpability and had agreed to plead guilty to a little lighter penalty in exchange for testifying against his co-conspirators. Recognizing the inevitable, the bank has withdrawn its funding. On the second day, Mr. Turnbull arrived at the hearing in a depressed state, accompanied only by a briefing lawyer. One of the bank's legal department representatives informed the court that the bank was no longer providing legal assistance to Mr. Turnbull and intended to take civil action against him to recover some funds. There are no serious faces remaining in the room. The prosecution resolved the case quickly when it was the defense's time. They demonstrated their desperation by providing a hard disk with images of Mr. Turnbull, Jeremy and Lisa, claiming that Jeremy blackmailed him into the conspiracy. After Lisa secretly taped him, the reporters hurried to the doors, their smartphones ready to deliver the hot scoop. This brought Lisa into the dispute and she was summoned to court. Jeremy had to return to the dock too. The entire sordid drama unfolded in front of the press, and for a week it was the primary topic of newspapers and television shows. Mr. Turnbull's defense was at its peak until the prosecutor summoned James and Paul to the stand. They emphasized that Mr. Turnbull's fondness for his former high school classmates predates the video. The defendants attempted to disparage them since they were serving a 4-year prison sentence. However, the judge seemed to understand what they were saying. He decided the case was worth pursuing and sent Mr. Turnbull to trial. Following the circus of putting the case to trial, Mr. Turnbull eventually lost interest in fighting, changed his plea to guilty and was sentenced to 2 years in prison. I wish I could say he ended up broken alone, but we all know that white-collar workers are too smart for that. Shortly before his indictment, he must have learned that security was looking for something. He transferred the majority of his assets into his wife's name and she initiated divorce proceedings at the time of the trial. He was supposedly living in his son's garage and had been declared bankrupt with no assets. Upon his release, he will undoubtedly reconcile and return to the streets. The chief of the Department of Public Prosecutions must have relished being the center of attention. So after Mr. turned blanched and pleaded guilty, he confronted Jeremy and Lisa. Jeremy was only able to settle on the accusation of conspiracy to commit fraud. However, the prosecution also charged employing a surveillance equipment to record private conduct without consent, filming obscene acts and using a telecommunications network to support the felony extortion using threats. Some of these acts were minor misdemeanors, but when combined together, he ended up serving 3 years in prison. Lisa was sentenced to probation for recording without consent and capturing filthy behavior. However, her face was in the press several times during the trial and her reputation suffered. Despite the fact that I was merely a supporting actor in the play, some of the dirt got on me. There has been some suspicion about my involvement in the case. Apparently, I was labeled as an unstable, deceived man in the banking industry. My work prospects have never improved, so if no one offers you a job, you must make your own. I founded a venture financing firm, particularly for environmental ventures. I haven't made a fortune, but I'm surviving and want to accomplish good things. Penny and I remained friends, but she was a player, whereas I was not. I am still on the hunt, but trust concerns are getting in the way. I recently started a wetland restoration project in the genuine outback, around 700 kilometers west of Sydney. 2 mining corporations and a bank have invested funds to improve their company image. I'll be living at a historic homestead that was formerly the primary residence for a 1,000-acre sheep station on the Darling River. I'm hoping that clean air and big sky country will change my luck. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode of the story, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to get notifications for updates.